Good afternoon, everyone. iTech India welcomes all the participants for today's National Distance Learning Seminar Series. Today's topic is Comprehensive Package for Transgender, and the speaker is Ms. Abhina Ahir. Ms. Abhina Ahir is currently associated with iTech India as a technical specialist key population. She is a transgender activist with over 2 decades of working experience in HIV and human rights domain. She started her journey with the oldest LGBTI organization called the Humsafar Trust. She has started the first trans-led dancing group for queer advocacy in India called the Dancing Queens. She established first collaborative organization for trans women and trans men in India, Transgender Welfare Equity and her International University Funding Program and HBA's conferred with many awards. She is also former chair of Asia Pacific Transgender Network. We welcome you, ma'am, for today's session and request you to start the session.
Yes, thank you. Just give me like 1 minute. I'm just thank you, Shweta ji, for introducing, and I'm really privileged to be taking this session. This session is very close to my heart, and within 1 hour of time, we will be discussing around various aspects of how to provide comprehensive health package to transgender people of India, and we will be taking lessons from various examples which are already there and the issues that normally transgender people come across. To save my bandwidth, I will be switching my video off. I hope that's okay. And welcome to all of you. We can also have a question answer at the end in this, and you can ask as many as questions. There are chat box where you can actually put across your questions. I hope my video is audible, and I will start the presentation now. So today's topic is about comprehensive package for transgender people. As all of you know that in India, transgender identities are not new. We all know about transgender people, right? We have seen them begging on the street. We have seen them in our facility-based services coming for HIV testing, ARV medications. We have seen at the targeted interventions. So transgender people are not alien to them. And of course, for our community and our culture, also transgender people are not alien. I mean, there are so many evidences in the oldest epics that we come across, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Transgenderism, cross-dressing, gender neutrality, gender superiority, same-sex love, all these things have been extensively discussed. Like in Shiva Purana talks about, like every individual is a combination of a man and a woman. And there is amount of gender supremacy that prevails within those identities. When we talk about Mahabharata, we talk about examples of Arjuna, which is the epitome of manhood, actually disguised himself as a transgender person to hide from Kauravas. And this Arjuna is not somebody who is begging on the signal, but this Arjuna is basically somebody who is teaching dance. He's at the higher rank at the dynasty. So you can see how prominent and important spaces transgender people capture at that point of time. We have also examples in our cultures, not only in Hindu culture, but various other cultures also related to that, and you will come across several cultures like that. In Hindu cultures particularly, there are evidences where Vishnu becomes Mohini, transitioning entire body to a woman body to serve the community. Then we have Radha Krishna example where, in the Krishna Lila, Radhas are actually cross-dressing Krishna as a woman and, playing Ras Lila with them. Then we have not only male to female transition, but female to male transition is also explicitly talked in the Mahabharata. In fact, without this person, Mahabharata war must have not ended at all. So we have an evidence of Shikhandi, which is a Shikhandi Raja, the Shikhandi king, which is a reincarnation of a princess called as Amba to take a revenge. And this basically is a person who's transitioning from the female body to a male body. And actually, because of this person who stands in between, Bhishma and Arjuna, Bhishma doesn't attack Arjun, and Arjun managed to kill him, and that's how the Mahabharata war ends. Then in the old days, Puranas and Vedas also, there are examples like, two men, Maruna and Mitra, who are a same-sex couple married to somebody, and they are also procreating child out of. So there are so many evidences when we talk about sexuality, gender, when we talk about transgenderism. It is not something new, and it is not only in humans, but we talk about the gender roles, sexualities also in the nature, in animals, in the plants, in various aspects. So first of all, I would just like to put the state across to you, saying that is when we talk about, when we see transgender people, when we meet transgender people, we should not be feeling uncomfortable about it, or we should not be feeling, oh, where these people come from. There are evidences in our scripts and cultures where these people were always there, almost from ages, and Hindu culture and Hindustan per se has been considered as the oldest tradition which exists for more than 5,000 years. So you can understand all these things were already there. Now, when we talk about data, now why don't we just talk about mythology, but we should also talk about particularly about evidences which are there scientifically in our country. So this is basically a UNAIDS report that we talk about it. In the UNAIDS report, globally they say that transgender people are 19% higher at the HIV rate. In fact, globally, the transgender women among the transgender umbrella, 49% are higher. In fact, when we talk about the other key population also, like female, we talk about MSM, we talk about female sex worker. Within female sex workers also, if you compare the female sex worker and transgender sex worker, the transgender sex workers are more at the risk, and that's why they are vulnerable, and that's why they keep coming to your services where we have to serve them appropriately. Now, transgender people become prey to social exclusion, and there are a lot of evidences report they talked about it, that because these people are economically vulnerable, because these people come from a poverty, because these people is filled with the stigma, inner stigma and outer stigma. That's the reason why these people don't manage to get a proper dignified health access, and many times these people are criminalized because of the way they are. In fact, in various countries in the Asia itself, cross-dressing is considered to be illegal, and actually transgender people can put inside the jails also, and a lot of them get murder also as a part of the hate crime. Now, WHO also recommends, particularly about the transgender people, it recommends highly that we have to work with the transgender people when we are accessing and providing services to the communities. While we serve pregnant women, while we serve migrant people, we must serve the other key population also, especially the transgender people who are vulnerable and left behind. Now, there is a huge estimation discussions that we have. Like normally, many times when we talk about the transgender people, we say that how many people live like that as a transgender people, and we don't know the idea about it. But UNAIDS data says that in any developing economy, 1%, 0.1% to 1% of population will always be identifying themselves as a transgender people. So imagine that India population is 101.3 billion population. So 1% of that would be at least 13 lakhs to 15 lakhs transgender people live in our country. And that is the harsh reality. Even the sustainable SDG, the sustainable goal that all the countries, all the entire globe has agreed to, does talk about gender equality, poverty alleviation, good health and well-being, human rights, all these things, and which is very important that we have to serve these transgender people. In fact, WHO also says that more than 50% transgender people go through a mental health issue because of the gender issues, transphobia, because of the family rejections and various other things, and that directly impacts the HIV vulnerability. That directly impacts their HIV health access, and that is something which we need to discuss about. Now, a lot of countries, a lot of regions still are not involved on the transgender rights. They don't have transgender policies, transgender rights, and that also makes the transgender people extremely vulnerable. Now, not only outside the globe and region, we are talking about the country also. National AIDS Control Program and National AIDS Control Organization also have a substantial amount of evidences around the transgender people. Now, the early mapping that the NACO managed to do with the help of community-based organizations, facilities, community champions within the 17 states of India, 18 actually, because that point of time Andhra and Telangana was not distributed together separately. Um, uh, 74,000 almost transgender people identified as a vulnerable population which needs to be provided HIV/AIDS services. We see that the IBBS talks about the huge amounts of HIV prevalence, 7.5% among the transgender people, and it also said that highest prevalence, almost 10% prevalence, was found out into the transgender people who are above 35 years of age, which is very interesting because many times we only keep serving young population, we forget about the older population, and then the older population keeps spreading the HIV to the other people, and that is something we should be aware about that. So, and also there was a very crucial evidence that transgender people become vulnerable for HIV not only after 18 years of age, but below the 18 years of age, also they are extremely vulnerable. I think the first sexual encounter that the IBBS reported by the transgender people was the age of the 14 years of age. And most of these respondents that reported this evidences, they said that sex was not voluntary, that sex was forceful. And that is the kind of discussion that we are having, because these people may be subject to a lot of forced rape and hate crime also, which we need to be addressing around. So even in the transgender sex workers also, the HIV prevalence is right now very, very, very high, and we need to be aware about that. Not only about HIV, but even in the districts and in the states where HIV infections are not reported higher among the transgender people, what we have found out that the STI infection rates are way much more higher because of the lack of awareness, because of the inhibition to show their bodies to the healthcare workers, and also lack of space where the transgender people can go and access STI services freely and in a dignified way. Condom use is quite often compromised because many times they are dependent on almost. I was working in one of the program, and that program actually did inline study, and they found out almost more than 80% of transgender people was indulging some kind of sex work related activity, either in cash or kind. So it's a huge number of people who are extremely vulnerable. Now, because of the mental health issues and because of the kind of vulnerable population these communities live in, many of them also become prey to the substance abuse. And not only substance abuse pertaining to the drug use, but the substance abuse pertaining to the alcohol consumption that compromises condom use many times. And also now the young population especially is also popping up a lot of recreational pills. They're popping up, the charas and ganja intake among the transgender people has also extensively increased, and also we are getting early evidences of transgender people indulging into drug use, especially in Northeast, UP, Bihar, Maharashtra. These states and Gujarat are also reporting that there are substantial amount of health risks for the transgender people who are injecting drugs. So now you see that the key communities are not compartmentalized, but now it is a crisscross happening. That you are also going to see a transgender people who are into drug use in future. So and I think the biggest issue about the transgender people when it comes to accessing the HIV services is that they live into a multiple stigma. So, like for example, I may be a transgender person. I may be living with HIV. At the same time, I may be a sex worker. At the same time, my family must have married me forcefully to a woman, and so on and so forth. So you can understand that the issue is not only about one individual, but the people who are associated with it that needs to be addressed. And when it comes to people living with HIV, about the transgender people, the stigma should be multiple. Now, I was talking to you about IBGA study, but the recent study 2020, Sankalp, which is established by NACO, which gave a more likely important evidences to us. Initially, the transgender interventions were 38. Government realized how vulnerable transgender people are. And under the NACP, from 38, the interventions are already upscaled to 41. In the poor population, and almost 67% of population which is covered. So if the mapping of the population was around 75,000, at least 45,000 transgender people have been covered at this point of time across the India through various programs. And in future, NACO is also considering and expanding this interventions further with the help of Global Fund and various other programs also. We were doing a traditional outreach approach. We were trying to reach out to them for the targeted intervention approach. And as we were moving ahead, now NACO is also thinking that we need to have the innovative approach to reach out to the unreached vulnerable population such as transgender people. So we need to have a various approaches that will help us to early detect the HIV infection among the transgender people. So some of the approaches which has been laid down is something like CBS, community-based screening, which we are doing under prevention. There are certain projects which are also indulging into the ARV delivery to the sustained patients, particularly for HIV services. And still, even the Sankalp reports that HIV prevalence among the transgender people have not been reduced. It is still coming to approximately 3.14. So we still are talking about the second highest HIV infected, interventions for the transgender people. Now, why are we talking about this data? Because there are so many targeted interventions and community-based organizations who manage to mobilize transgender people, and they bring to us, to the ICTCs, ARV centers, the transgender people. And if we don't treat them well, if we don't take care of them properly, these patients go back without services, or there are a lot of dropouts within the service. Then they go back and they become themselves vulnerable, and they make other people vulnerable also. Because, as per the NACO, the programmatic coverage is less than 60% for the transgender people. The condom distribution and condom use is also extremely low. And only 70%, 67% of transgender people know their status. So 30% of transgender people are already there in the community who doesn't know their HIV status, which means that maybe they are also indulging into unsafe sexual practices. And if they indulge in unsafe sexual practices, you all know they will be spreading HIV. Now here I would like to give you another example. Like in India, the census, the mapping of the population happens once in a 10 years. In 2011, for the first time, transgender census was carried out. And they found out there are almost 5 lakh transgender people in various priority states. What you see mapped here is the geographical location of the transgender people. On the left-hand side map, you see the entire transgender population, 5 lakh transgender population, 4.9, spread across in various states. So you see there are certain states where transgender population is much more higher. Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, some of the states like Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur. These are the states which have been reported higher amount of transgender population particularly. And now when they will do it once again in 2021 or 2022, they will find out more population, I'm sure, because there are so many changes have happened. Now, the interesting data that I want to tell you here, they did not only found out that there are almost 5 lakh transgender people who are there, but they also found out there are 50,000 transgender children or intersex children between the age group of 0 to 6 years, which are there in these states as well. And their families identified them as an intersex child or the transgender child, which was reported under the census. So you understand that it is not about only the people who are existing, but the next generation, which is also need to be taken care and provided services. Now, when we talk about the transgender community is just not one identity. It is the complete umbrella. So there are so many identities that come across under the transgender umbrella. Now the major identities that we see is three. One is intersex, which means that some child which is born at the birth can have a genital deformity. There could be 40 different medical conditions with which the child could be born. And those children are considered as intersex child, and those also comes under the transgender umbrella. Second, we have transitions like from male body to female body. So somebody who is born as a male and then transitions themselves as a female, which we call it as a trans woman. And second is called as a trans man, where you transition from a female body to a male body. These are the main three categories. But beyond these categories, there are so many different transgender people who are there, which are identify themselves as with the various identities in countries like India. Just like in India, after every 1600 kilometers, the food and the language changes. Also, there are transgender identities changes. So, like for example, when you go to various parts of India, the transgender people are called by various names. So if you go to Gujarat, they are called as Lalma. If you go to Odisha, they are called as Maitya. If you go to West Bengal, there are different names. If you go to South India, they are called as Aravan. So different names, different communities, but they come under the complete vulnerable transgender umbrella, and you have to serve all of them. Now, some of these identities, like for example, prominent identities that you hear is something called the Hijra. Now, these are the people who clap on the signal. They have their own rituals. It's a socio-ethnic identity. Now, how do you identify the Hijra? Is that when a person who identifies himself or herself as a Hijra will always have association with some gharana. So like for example, I am also Hijra. I'm living as a Hijra for almost 18 years of my life. So I have a gharana called as the Bulak Wala Gharana. I will have my guru. They will have their guru. I will have my disciple. So it's like a mother-daughter relationship, like a Guru Chela Parampara, which is going on for more than 900 years in our country. So they have their own rituals, they have their own language, they have their own vocabulary, they have their own functions, and it's a very closeted community, and it requires a different kind of approach if you want to talk about HIV/AIDS with these communities, because it's a very hierarchical community. Now the other communities are like, for example, if you go to Maharashtra, you will find somebody called as a Jogti, Jogappa, Shiva Shakti, Mangalmukhi in the south region. Now, these identities are people who are marrying to the gods. They take care of the gods. So they are religious-based identities, and that's how we want to serve them. Jogappa also needs a different intervention. Jogis also need a different intervention because their vulnerability towards HIV differ many times. And then there are so many other identities that we hear when we are working in our HIV sector. There are identities like Koti, where a person will come to us and say that I'm a Koti. Now, what do you mean by a Koti? Koti is an identity where a person who belongs to a particular kind of a gender, especially this is about the male gender. So I have a male body, but I identify myself as a woman. I feel I have a woman's heart. I don't want to cross this, or I would like to partially cross this, but I want to live my life as a man. So those are the identities that are considered as a Koti identity. Now, who decides who's Koti and who's not? That person only has to decide. We can't decide for that person. That whether you are Koti or you're not a Koti. We can't decide for that. And there are certain people who cross-dress for some occasions. They are called as drag queens. Either they will cross-dress for a function or a performance or something like that. But they would not like to live in that attire for the rest of their life. But the difference between transgenders and drag queens are the transgenders live like that forever in their life. That's how they live their, that is what their identity is. Their issue is about a gender identification. And gender queer are some of the people who say that we don't belong to either of gender. We are neither male, neither female, neither transgender. We are everything. So they are also floating audiences who also indulge into high-risk behavior, but they don't want to associate themselves with any particular kind of a gender. Now, when we talk about the transitioning, when you change, like a lot of you been hearing now from my side also, and you may have heard from other people also, or transition from male body to female body to male body. Is it very easy? No. The simple answer is it is not easy. It is not easy, and it is almost like you going through a hell. It is almost like living a different life altogether. So how does it start? A child at any point of time, or a young boy or a young girl at any age, may identify themselves as a transgender person. They will understand that their heart is not matching with their body. Their mind is not matching with their body. Gender is over here. So their mind is not matching with body. So like giving my personal example, at the age of 6 and 7, I realized that I am trapped in a wrong body. I always say that I'm trapped in a wrong body. I don't want this body. I don't like getting mustache. I don't like getting body hair. I don't like having male organ on my body. There was always a lot of uncomfort about it, and a lot of people go through that kind of a psychological issue. So they first come out to themselves, that they understand who they are. After coming themselves, they go through a counseling with their peers, with their families, with their friends, and they decide what they are comfortable with. Once they are absolutely comfortable and they are decided, oh, this is what my life is, and this is how I want to live my life with, they start transitioning. So they can take either oral hormones. Now there are, if you go, you need to go to endocrinologist. You have to do your kidney test before you start a hormone, but a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people just start popping up the pills like Progenova or Maladi or anything, anybody, because they hate their body. They want to change their body, and they are willing to do anything, and everything is possible. But the right approach is that you have to go to a counselor. You have to get a certificate from a counselor, psychiatrist. Then you have to go to a doctor, and the doctor will do your test from your body, and they will prescribe how much hormone that you have to do. There are two ways of hormone that people take. One is something that will encourage them to reach to a certain gender. So if I want to become a trans woman, I will take female hormone more, and then I will use an additional hormone to block my male hormone. And in Ulta, it will happen, the different way it will happen into the trans men. They will block their female hormone, and they will encourage their male hormone. In all the bodies, you have male and female hormones inside your body. So you have to be aware about that. Then there are a lot of transition like voice changes, behavior changes that happen. Then once they go through surgery, they can also change their documents. The document changes also takes a lot of place, lot of time, because a lot of these transgender people leave their house at the early age. They don't have their documentation. In your ARV centers, ICT centers also, you may be seeing so many people. So you may be seeing the Aadhaar card where it is being say written Chandan, and the person who's standing in front of you is saying that my name is Chandani. So how do you relate with that? There are a lot of complexities in that regard also, and we will talk quickly about it in the later session. Now, what makes transgender people more vulnerable is something that you need to start. Now, the problem begins from the family support itself. More than 40, less than 40% families only support transgender people. Otherwise, what happens to those children who identify themselves as a transgender people? They run away from their house. They don't have any support. They come to different states because they feel ashamed of living in the same state, same district. So when you are in a different state, what will you do? You have to survive, right? So you will start doing begging, you will start doing sex work, whatever that comes to you, where you are, you lack with the support. So if you may be subject to gender-based violence, you may be subject to bullying. They don't get enough social protection inclusion right now, because our social protection is a lot of binary, and still we don't have social protection. There is a violence and harassment towards the transgender people. Because of the bullying in the school, a lot of transgender people drop out at the early age and don't complete the education. And because they don't complete the education, they are trapped into the vicious circle of poverty. So you don't have education, you don't have certificate, you will not get employment, and the only option that remains with you is to beg on the street. So you're trapped into the poverty. You will never be able to break that poverty. So you need to get educated, and that's the reason why transgender children needs to be protected. Now, transition-related work, hormones, surgeries, cosmetology, all this is very expensive, very, very expensive. It can cost up to 20,000, 15,000 per month as well, depend upon what kind of your requirement of the transition is. And because of that, there are a lot of times, a lot of transgender people also indulge into criminal activities and unsafe sexual activities, which makes them more vulnerable. As they start living alone, as they start hating themselves for not being able to live with their family, not being able to find the love, they have consecutive mental health problems. Their aspiration levels are very low. So if you will start talking to them as a counselor or as a doctor, you have to take medication, you have to have a healthy lifestyle. They will say, why should I live? Whom should I live for? Nothing will happen to me. I'm the god, I'm the transgender, I don't have to be worried about anything. So there's always a lack of knowledge, lack of aspiration, and lack of health seeking behavior among the transgender people. And because of that, they get trapped into four major issues. One is the poverty and loan, a constant poverty and constant loan, suicide. A lot of people commit suicide. They get a lot of diseases pertaining to the NCD, pertaining to the non-NCD. They do a lot of substance abuse among their body because they hate their body, and a lot of them also die. A lot of also them die into the entire biology. These are the diverse community needs that I have identified for you to help you to understand it very clearly. There are certain needs which are bound to HIV, like for example, they need to have HIV testing, ARV medication. After that, also they need a nutrition, HIV support, STI treatment. There are opportunistic infection that needs to be done. They are always vulnerable for Hep B and Hep C particularly. And they also need to have a constant prevention and mental health support, which is very, very important. You know, there's always a calcium deficiency because they pop up a lot of pills. And what happens that once they go through surgery and once they are taking female hormone, the first thing that side effects of this female hormone that happens on your body is that you lose calcium. So their bone density becomes very, very weak. They can get injured very easily. There are other psychological side effects that they get irritated very fast. They are abusive. They get hyper very fast. Their blood pressure is low down. They have constant, frequent mood swings that they incur because of the hormone change. So the body does a lot of things if you start taking the hormones. And if you are not controlled with your body, you cannot manage to control your body. And as a result of them, you see a lot of transgender people are extremely hyperactive and they are very aggressive, which is also a result of hormone transition support. Of course, there are other bigger needs around welfare, human rights, and social needs, which is constant. Now, not only in India, but across the globe, there are various initiatives which are happening to serve the transgender people with dignity. And there is something called as a WPATH, which is there. It is called as World Transgender Health Association. And they do annual workshops, annual sessions. But WPATH is a global body that tells to the countries how and which services to be provided to the transgender community. How can we provide the quality services to the transgender community? How can we serve them better? How can we listen to them better? So those are the things. So various countries have various of these initiatives. Like you see in UK, there's an initiative called as Clinic, which is inside a government hospital, and they provide services. Then there's a Fenwick Institute for the LGBTI people in America, which provides a lot of services. In India also, there has been a lot of research which has happened, which was done by Jain Patel, Dr. Venkatesh Chatrapani, and they proposed various models how we can serve the transgender community better. So they proposed three models. One is inside the hospital. So they said that is the transgender care should be provided inside the hospital. How can we do that? Second model that they provide was the private model, where you do an independent clinic and the services should be provided to transgender into the independent clinic. And third, they propose is the cafeteria approach. So like for example, something services being provided into public hospital and some services could be provided into private hospital. But you see down there, there's a very interesting model where they say, and it is being used in Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, I don't remember now. It's one of the hospitals, all the departments come together on one day and they do some sort of services to the transgender people. So in the skill OPD, all the other departments, including AIT department, ICT department, other department, they come together and they try to provide a single window services to the transgender community. I know most of the hospitals, ARV centers, ICTCs are extremely overburdened, and it is little bit difficult and impossible to provide services like that. Now, from all these examples that you have seen across the India, that is across the globe, which is happening, there are evidences that show that some services are very, very important for transgender people. One is the prevention services. We must provide the prevention services to the transgender people. Second is the quality treatment services. This must include viral load, use equal to you, cosmic infections management and the related aspects, and transgender HIV empowerment also. Third is around gender specific support, gender change, hormone change, other related activities support. Fourth is about mental health. So these are the four major pillars that they talked about that you have to provide. And then you have to provide other important services, like for example, if the transgenders who have harm reduction issues, then you have to provide harm reduction services. You have to develop a lot of research to generate more data, build the capacity, and you need to run a clinic which is specifically around the transgender people. Now, this is the thing that you see it across, that when you talk about the transgender comprehensive package, there are certain things which are extremely essential for transgender people that we've been talking about again and again and again, which is very important. One is differential service delivery. I'll repeat that. Differential service delivery. Now, when I say differential service delivery, all transgenders are not same, right? All transgenders could be different. Some may be hijras, some may be young transgenders, some may be old transgenders, some may be transgenders who are into sex work, some may be transgenders who are into only badai. So different transgenders require different services. Different transgenders require different approach on health, and that is what is called as a differential HIV services. Also, we have to monitor their health. So at what stage of health they are? Do they have NCD? Are they living with HIV? Are they having any complaints about using condoms? And then according to that, we have to provide services. Now, when we provide HIV services, the data shows and the research is showing that we can't provide the HIV services in singularity. It cannot be just HIV service. It has to be beyond HIV service. So, like for example, if you saying is that if I'm transgender person and if I'm coming to you, if I come to ICTC AIT center, you are a doctor in ICTC and AIT center, and you are just saying, you are just motivating me for getting tested, I would be not interested, because for me HIV comes last. What is coming first is maybe my mental health. What is coming first is maybe my general health. And they are saying now is that unless and until you don't treat non-communicable diseases of the transgender people, it becomes very, very difficult for you to treat the HIV services also. There are community-specific services which are extremely essential. Now, not only AIT and ICTC, the AIT and ICTC department also has to do an extra work of doing a sensitization of the other departments for transgender people to access the services. They also have to have a very close relationship with targeted intervention, community-based organizations that will provide you leadership and engagement. And you have to look into your health system. Is there a possibility? When I was traveling right now to Andhra Pradesh, and I went to Vijayawada Hospital, one of the medical hospitals, I don't remember the name of that hospital. And I was so surprised that the superintendent of the medical hospital had actually given ID cards to 300 transgenders. They were already providing gender services to the transgender people. And the ICTC may not be aware about that completely. The ARV centers may not be aware about that completely. But if we interact with different departments and if we talk about this subject, maybe we will find the support inside our health system itself. Now, on 25th of March, actually, the ITech India, based on that learning, we initiated a transgender health and healthcare center into Manipur, Impal West. And this was inaugurated by the Health Secretary to the Health Minister, Health Secretary, US Consulate, project director and country director of CDC, Dr. Melissa Nenhat. And it was a huge thing for us because it was the first time we, in the history of the HIV work, we managed to put a health desk inside the hospital. So inside the hospital, just outside the ART, we managed to create a small room for transgender people inside the hospital, where this room was managed by transgender people. Two transgender people, one was a nurse, the other one was a peer advocate, and the counselor was sitting inside the hospital with the whiteboard. And it was transformational because the hospital never encountered that transgender people can also be the health delivery providers. And that was changing the perspective of people who are working in the hospital. The healthcare providers were friendly, and the transgender people were not getting irritated because then they don't have to go to various other facilities. They have to just go to the one health desk and they will get various services. This is the operational model of our project, which is called the Sunshine. Sunshine project is supported by PEPFAR and CDC, and it is getting implemented in the 3 priority districts, actually in the Northeast completely, but 3 priority states, Mizoram, Manipur, and Nagaland. And we are working particularly with the key populations around index testing, social networking, and other things. And in Manipur, we established this center, which was very important. Now, this center, the ITEC that established, it was established with the help of Marupulai Foundation, which is a community-based organization based in Bishnupur. And in Nepal, when we established that, what we did is that we established a health desk inside a Jawaharlal Nehru Medical Institute Research Hospital, and just outside the hospital, we created a wellness center for the community, especially it was easy for them to connect with these 2 doors. So some services we were giving directly, and some services we were giving indirectly to the community. So inside the Jenny Hospital, we were providing HIV testing, ARV dispensing. We were having very close link with the ARV and ICPC over there department. We were also connected with the PSC department for HIV services because this program was also reaching to the trans men who are transitioning from female to male body. And they were also vulnerable because a lot of their partners were actually injecting drug users. So they were also vulnerable and they also needed to provide services. So the first time under the HIV umbrella, we started providing services to trans men also, which was never happened before. So we started doing that kind of a support. And the wellness center, welfare center provided additional empowerment to the community through the skill building program, through the beauty parlor, webinars, web sessions, mental health counseling, clinics where you can meet a doctor for general health care, and also a complete full-fledged laboratory where in the single visit you can do multiple body tests, multiple blood tests that can be done along with the HIV. And it was very interesting. This is the kind of model it looks like. If you see right now on my screen, this is how visually it looks like. I will not be able to show you picture right now because I don't have it. But this is the kind of model of the wellness center where you have a community feedback, we have a community advisory board, there's a counseling room, waiting area, there's a lab, there's a staff room, there is a doctor's room where doctors provide services, there's a connected pharmacy, there's a training center, and there's also a community kitchen and all gender restroom. That's the kind of thing that we envisage. Now, not only Sunshine program, but various other programs are also providing a very, very important services to the transgender community in India, especially Johns Hopkins University, which has a program called as Accelerate. Now, Accelerate program is also being conducted in Thane and Pune, also right now in UP, the program is going on, particularly, and Telangana. So they have also established multiple transgender clinics with the help of community-based organization collaboration. And these clinics are based on the examples of Tangerine Clinic, which is there in Bangkok. In Bangkok, there is a clinic called the Tangerine Clinic, where you have a transgender doctors also. They are providing news, they are providing hormone services to the transgender people. And here the Accelerate work, which is also being doing it, They are also doing it with public-private partnerships. GHS is voluntary health organization. They have also established right now 2 to 3 clinics, welfare center or wellness center for transgender people in Andhra Pradesh, in Vijayawada and in Vizag. Alliance has around 10 transgender community service centers, which is CSC, which is based in various parts of India, and they only focus on transgender people living with HIV. But they do provide social welfare support and other related aspects also. They try to bring back lots of fellow clients and other aspects. And there is an organization called ATI, Association of Transgender Health in India. What they are doing is very interesting now. With the help of AIMS, I mean based in Delhi. So AIMS Hospital, what they are trying is that in the AIMS Hospital, they are trying to create center of excellence, which means that everybody can get trained in from the AIMS Hospital. The doctors, the clinicians, everybody can get trained from the AIMS Hospital how to take care of the issues related to transgender. This is a very, very interesting work which is going on. Now, right now, at the national level, we are talking about the transgender comprehensive package. And when we are saying transgender comprehensive package, we said that there are so many elements which are very, very important when we provide the comprehensive package to the transgender people. One
excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am.
When you are providing services to transgender people have to be in the leadership role. It has to be
Abhina, ma'am.
A government facility. It cannot be standalone. If it is standalone, then it will not have a sustainability. Henceforth, it has to be connected with the general hospital, with ICTC and AIT centers also. We have to think about future, not only now, but future. We have to think about how we can provide PrEP, self-testing, community-based testing, hormones. So we have to think about future. When we talk about the HIV services to transgender people, we have to think about future. How can we provide the future facilities to the transgender people? How do these services can help them to reduce the gender-based violence and discrimination? Because that's a major issue that transgender people are right now facing. There's a huge amount of physical abuse, verbal abuse. Even there is a lack of facilities. Like even in your hospital, you may not have a gender-neutral washroom, right? It is very difficult for them. The other day I was traveling to the metro station, and in Delhi metro station they have made one washroom for physically able people and transgender people. But that washroom.
Abhina, ma'am.
So many times the basic facilities for transgender people are also not appropriate. And when we are providing them services, we have an opportunity to do this. Then gender segregated data. So like for example, you are working in ICTC, you are working in ARV center. Don't you decide the gender of the other person. You ask. Do you identify yourself as NSN, transgender? How do you identify? What is the preferred name that you have? And that's how the data should be maintained. Because this person is registered as a male previously, you keep still writing as a male forever, that transgender people will never be getting notified within the HIV services as a transgender person. Deeper mental health support, which is very important. All the hospitals have a psychiatry department, right? So ICTC, IIT centers also have a very stronger linkages with because you may get a patient for HIV or living with HIV who may have a
excuse me, ma'am.
Mental health.
Yeah, excuse me, ma'am.
How you bring them to the healthy behavior responsibility, the responsibility of you also have. Many times we don't get enough time to do counseling of the patient, and the counseling does require a higher amount of engagement for the patient. At that point of time, this means it is really
hello.
Very, very friendly thing. So this is the kind of comprehensive package that at the national level we are talking about for the transgender people, particularly, and we are recommending to NACO and other organizations that need to do about it. Now, the one thing that always keeps coming into my mind, like, okay, what stops our healthcare providers like counselors, doctors, clinicians, ward boys, what stops them from, providing services? He's calling me. Hello?
Sorry, there was some issue with the audio. I have just checked it. I hope it is okay. Praveen ji, just give me green signal. It is okay.
Yes, it is fine now.
Now better? Okay, okay. Sorry that I think the, yeah. So I keep thinking that what makes the healthcare providers stop from accepting from transgender people as they are. Pehle to, you know, we always feel three emotions with the transgender people. Either we feel shame, oh, these people are like that. Either we feel that we feel very sorry, oh my God, these people, why these people are like that. Or either we always have a mystery. Who are these people? Where are they coming from? Okay, if they undressed, what is the genitals that they're going to sue? How they would be doing a sex? How they must be living? And all this mystery is there in our mind. And that's the reason why we always, you know, we are unaware about this world. This is a different world for us. We never come to know about this. So that's the reason why we stop accepting them as. So we always say that, okay, we will make them stand a little far away. We will not entertain them. We will always, you know, kind of, then there's always this blame that you are like that and you are not invited into the binary sector. So many times we have our inner conscious, which is there, what has been told by our parents, our friends and other people that, oh, these people are bad people. You should not get close to these people. You should not be talking to these people. And when we are doing counseling or healthcare providers, sometimes that unconscious bias also comes out very, very strongly. And we don't even talk about these issues to our children's. We don't teach into the medical curriculum. We don't teach into the MSW courses very efficiently about these issues. And as a result of that, many times we don't manage to provide them dignified and quality services to this client. Now, what can we do? How can we, in the healthcare stigma like ARV centers, ICDC center, I wonder how can we serve them better? So some of the things that can be really helpful for you. One is that, you know, do not misgender the person. So like, for example, if you want to talk to me, ask me which name I should be called by. If you are seeing on my form, it has been written Ajay, but if I want to call myself as Anjali, you call me as Anjali, not as Ajay. Then you also, as a healthcare provider, must ask, see, I am Prabhakar, I am a man and I would like to identify myself as a he and him. How would you like to identify yourself? How can I call you? Should I address you as madam, sir? How do you want me to address you? So they will tell you. And that's how you need to be. Keep in mind, and you have to put the note in your health card everywhere that this is how the person should be. This is how the patient should be identified with. Then other thing is that increase your knowledge on gender and sexuality. This is something that you can do it very well. You can talk to us. There are a lot of videos, there are a lot of study material in local languages, which is available. You can always access and get this more information. Second is that, you know, these people come with a lot of stealth stigma. So help them to come out of the stealth stigma. Like I may have a self stigma that if I go to a counselor or a lab technician, he will not treat me well. I will have that because I have had past experiences. But when I go to some ICTC or ART centers, and when there's a counselor or lab technician start talking to me as a Didi, I feel extremely connected. I feel friendly. I would love to come back again and again for a medication, provide support. So, you know, help them to come out of the self-stigma. Second is there's always this silent and verbal stigma, which is there at the healthcare center. Especially, you know, like, for example, these people don't like to wait in the long queues, not because they don't have time, because there are other people who are staring at them. You know, you must have seen so many people that transgender people are not willing to wait. Wait not because they don't have time. Wait because they are suffocated in that space. So it is your moral responsibility that you somehow support them to make friendly in that space where they can get those services, and that's how they can get the things. In your health facility, please talk to the health administration superintendent and try to get a non-judgmental hospital environment for transgender people. Sensitize them on the transgender issues. If you can't take help of the community-based organizations which is working in your area, start basic thing like gender neutral toilets, which is very, very important for the transgender people. If they are going there, they don't feel comfortable going to male and female ward, where would they go? So that is one thing that you can do. If there are certain records where the person is identified as MSM before and now transition as a transgender, and if you are claiming that transgender people, don't ask them for an identity proof. The government of India, the law of the land says that transgender person is somebody who identifies themselves as a transgender. They don't need to have any surgical interventions. They don't need to have any identity proof for that. So if you are an ICTC AIT counselor or doctor or whoever health professional, please do not ask them that please get your document. Please show us the proof that you are a transgender person. There's no proof as a transgender person. The law of the land says that the transgender identity is self-identified person. If the person identifying in front of you saying that that person identify himself as a transgender and would like to identify himself as a transgender for rest of the life, please make a note in your document, in white card, in your records, everywhere you please make a note. Send details to NACO, send details to SAC saying that these many people have transitioned them as a TG. Previously, they were identified as a MSM. And please, if you don't have that information in SIMS, please start talking to your SACs and NACO how we can report on that aspect as well, particularly. Again, I mentioned to you that so many people will have a different Aadhaar cards, different kind of social entitlement documents, and you have to be considerate about that. When you are especially doing a test around index testing, other related testing, it is very important that you maintain the confidentiality of the patient. So, especially among the Hijra community, I'm talking about, because there's a possibility where if the guru will come to know about the HIV status of the chela, and if the guru is not friendly enough, they can throw him away of the existing support system also. So please understand those sensitivity, manage confidentiality, empower the transgender person who's living with HIV for a disclosure, and always keep transgender client always informed and involved about what information to be provided. And also there are so many times the transgender people may not have a friendly timings. They may come little late because in the morning they are going for a badai and in the night they are going for a sex work. So many times the ICTC and AIT times probably may not be friendly for them. So if there are clients when they come on off time or something, please somehow explain them, communicate them, convince them to come back or either to wait for the services that you are providing within the the center. Then, like for example, you should always ask, as I mentioned to you before also, always ask the person what is your gender, what is your sexuality, what is your pronunciation. Curb your enthusiasm. So you may get a transgender client and you will be so inquisitive, so interested to know, oh, how this person has a sex. This person is reporting that he has or she has a vulnerability in the sexual activity. How do you have sex? Don't ask the questions which are irrelevant to your health information. Do not get into the information which is not necessary for you, unless the client himself or herself tells you that about it. You have to maintain the privacy of the client. The second thing is, if you are especially introspecting the client, inspecting the client for physical examination, always make sure that you are the only one who's present over there and not the trainee doctors, not the additional nurse, not anybody else. So, but the client doesn't give you the consent for that. And already the client who's going to show you the body that person is uncomfortable with is going to be a big task. So you always maintain those aspects, and encourage celebration of the LGBTI event and other related aspects. Be genuine and honest in your approach. And if there are clients who are coming into a mental breakdown stage, then you always do an extra mile to provide them support. This is a fresh picture that is, viral on the media today, yesterday. Yesterday, this transgender person, Majamma Jogti, just received a Padma Shri award for an extraordinary work into the folk theater. And not only her, last year, one more transgender person called Nartaki Nataraj has received this award as well. So transgender people are getting empowered, they are coming into mainstreaming, and it is our moral and ethical responsibility that within the healthcare also we prioritize them. We put them at our agenda, and also we equipped our healthcare facilities and ourselves to serve them well and to serve them with dignity. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any other questions, particularly, we can take the questions now. Shweta, are you going to facilitate with the questions, or should I just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions in the chat box, ma'am.
Yeah.
Participants can unmute their mics if they have any questions.
Can I stop sharing the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So if you have any questions, please, please, you can ask now, or you can write to us, to iTech India, and we'll be more than happy to provide you support for this. Shweta, I don't see any other questions at this point of time.
Oh, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this informative session.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the participants for patient listening. We can end the session now.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, ma'am.
everybody, for being there. Thank you so much.